Now, what I can tell you from the point of view of customer slash patient slash client, however you want to identify me, maybe the best way to view me is just your neighbor. I'm just a neighbor that has certain needs. You have needs, I have mine. They're just more profound. They're more obvious. They're more demanding and more expensive. I won't argue that. But so are the buying habits of college students. Some of my students spend more than 1 year on the internet just for spending money and buying gadgets than I have in the last 10 years. So don't talk to me too much about cost. All right? Without this level of support, I doubt if I would, first of all, be alive. And secondly, if I were alive, I doubt if I'd be able to be very productive or useful at all. So it's an essential part of the fabric of my being to be able to get the things that I need to be productive and useful. I'm a highly motivated individual. Most of my friends with disabilities are highly motivated and wish to do things. Many of them are former students, like Louis Stephens, a high-level quad at South Carolina Electric and Gas Company. We got him that job 18 years ago. He's still working, still paying taxes, but he has a motorized chair and he needs a lot of support, and he gets that, you see. So there's a social cost involved, and there's an economic cost involved for people like me to participate in society. So who's the linchpin of all this? The answer is you. You as suppliers of those services and equipment that I need so very badly to be independent. I've often heard it said, well, your quality of life is no good. And maybe from an economic point of view, you're not worth it. My friends, be very careful that you don't get suckered into buying into that mindset. It was that very mindset that was very much an integral part of the Third Reich's thinking as well, and led to the infamous mercy debt decree by Hitler in April of 1939, months before he began World War II with the invasion of Poland. How about that for an history? So we have to be very, very, very careful, you see. Life is a very treasured gift. It is not easily given sometimes, and sometimes it's very easily taken. We have to remember that. But we're all here for a purpose, I believe that, by divine appointment. And so I think we have an obligation to each other to provide whatever support that is reasonable and necessary to be productive, to be useful, and to be fulfilling. I don't have any problem with that. And you folks have an integral role to play in that. Now, how all of this thinking will bode in view of the healthcare reforms in the House and the Senate, I honestly don't know. I haven't studied every line of the 2,000-page House bill. It'd take me days to do that, and probably weeks and months to figure it out anyway. But what little bit I've seen, it's a little frightening. It's a little bit frightening. And so, as I conclude, let me just leave you with a few thoughts. People like me need you. We need you as neighbors. We need your equipment. We need your expertise. We need your services. Why do we need that? Because most of us who have severe impairments wish to be productive, we wish to be independent, and fulfill our lives to the very best of our ability. Help the legislators understand that. I try to. I've spoken to this issue several times to Senator Graham, to Joe Wilson, whom I know quite well, and more recently to Dr. Tom Price, distinguished congressman from Georgia, who is an ally. But that's not enough. It's going to take a lot more people to understand this perspective. And so I think that you have to become advocates of your own business in terms of what are you doing for people like me. Remember this also. Ever since we began keeping records on the incidence of disability in the United States, which goes back to the passage of the Social Security Act in 1933, the percentage of our population which is disabled in one way or another is between 25 and 30%. That's the best evidence that we have. So disability, whether it is congenital, acquired, or traumatic, is not going to go away. Man is not perfect. He wants to be, but he's not. Not even Steve Spurrier. But we want him to be. Especially after Tennessee. We won't talk about that. And so we have two choices. One is to deal with the matter in radical ways that are frightening and terrible, and there are plenty of historical precedents for that, if you want to look at it from that particular perspective. It's my prayer, I hope to God we never go down that path. I think it's a dangerous path. We've already set the precedent in one way with 48 million abortions since 1973. You think about that, there's 48 million people, potential people, that we just said, cut it, just like that. It makes the losses of World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and the Civil War look like child's play. Look like child's play. We cannot go there. Secondly, if we value life, if we have any understanding of the worth of a human being, then we have to make all efforts that we possibly can and influence legislative initiatives that will somehow demean that notion. We can't do that. And that's why a lot of the things that are taking place on Capitol Hill, from a disabled neighbor's point of view, that's me, scare the living daylights out of me. And I speak up. I'm only one voice. You are 20 or 30, and it will take 20 or 30 more for each one of you to make an impact on it, you see. All right. You're an integral part of my life. I view you as a part of the family in a way. It does take money to keep me going, but also I pay back. Don't forget that. Federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security taxes, state retirement fund, and many other ways as well. Property taxes. Let's not forget that. That red van I have out there is not a free vehicle. I pay for it. I pay the property taxes on it. And also the license tag fees. And the list goes on and on. So if we look at it from that point of view, then the return on investment is not too bad at all. Yes, sir.
If I could, seems like a good time to interject the question. Since your involvement with your medical equipment provider, readmission back to the hospital and other incurred costs, how many times have you been back in the hospital?
I haven't. I have an ongoing series of checkups with a variety of physicians, both here and in Charlotte, but no readmissions. So right now we're in, I guess you would call it, maintenance mode. Okay. Any other questions, please? I like to have questions, being an old teacher. Anything or any comments? Be happy to entertain them. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to the story. And I'll linger here for a while if you'd like to drop by and say hello. I'd be delighted to chat with you. Thank you so much. And keep up the good work and keep fighting. Thank you.
Professor Corbett, he's been there for us for a couple times now with Dr. Price and Congressman Price and Congressman Wilson. He articulates the message very well, and after a day of talking about regulatory changes and healthcare reform, it's encouraging to remind us that we're taking care of patients here. And we do. We provide, those in the room here, provide hospital beds and wheelchairs and oxygen to patients in their homes, and to help keep them in their homes, which is an environment that studies have shown patients prefer to be cared for in their homes, rather than institutions. We also know it's much more cost effective, and we don't run into the side effects that you do, the collateral infections and things along the way that are very expensive.